Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of The Owner's Box After Dark. Hi, I'm Mark Farinella. I'm your host. I am, of course, the former Patriots beat writer, assistant sports editor, sports columnist, 500-pound gorilla, whatever you want to call me, at the Sun Chronicle in Attleboro, Massachusetts, from which I retired in August of 2018. And this, as I said, is the 5th episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. And we just enjoy discussing all sorts of stuff here as I spend some time on vacation from my daily trials and tribulations, but not too many tribulations these days. So, just wanted to give you all that information. It is still just barely Sunday, July 19th, 2020. And it will be probably the 20th by the time I get done with this. And it's been an interesting couple of days. It's been very, very warm down here. Extremely warm. Warmer than I'd like it to be. I mean, I do remember having a vacation down here probably about 2006 where we were over 95 degrees. And at least of my 18 days down here, I want to say probably about 12 of them. And the rest of them were very, very close to the 90s. But I was younger, and it didn't bother me as much. I'm not enjoying all this hot weather as much as I used to. And besides, I generally avoid the beach like the plague on a Cape Cod summer weekend because they're just too crowded. Too many people will like to crowd into these tiny little patches of beach around where I stay. And especially this year, in the year of the coronavirus, that's not a very wise thing to risk. So it would not have been my plan originally to head to the sand today, and the fact that it was overcast for most of the day probably underscored the correctness of that decision. But fortunately, it wasn't a lonely day today. Late in the morning, my friend and his daughter stopped by to replace the chair that I accidentally destroyed early in the week. Like I've mentioned before that I rent this place from my longtime friend, and it's good to see them no matter what the circumstances are. And then later in the afternoon, I headed over to Mashpee Commons, which is not that far away from here, and one of its longest tenured establishments, Bobby Burns Pub. My God, that's been there since the 1970s. And I caught up with an old friend from the Patriots beat. My friend is Howard Albin. He is formerly of the Associated Press, and he retired from the job 5 years ago and relocated down here to the Cape. So we met up today, wearing masks, of course, and caught up for about a couple of hours. Good conversation. Had a blast. I think I first met Howard in 1981. He had first been transferred to Boston. He actually is a fellow Northwestern University alum. He went to the graduate school at Medill, I believe. I did not go to the graduate school. And he got sent here, and right about the time that he got sent here, the Associated Press sent him down to my hometown to interview me, because apparently I was the only reporter that had been beaten up by somebody in the nation that week. Yeah, it's a long story, and maybe I'll go into it some other time, or maybe on my audio blog or my audio podcast, The Owner's Box. But I got into a bit of a row with the subject of one of my columns. He came to my house, beat the ever-loving crap out of me. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. And that was not pleasant. A year later, he got caught for it. He'd actually run off to California for it. And like I said, it's a very long story. But Howard was the one who was sent to interview me. In fact, we weren't even a member. My paper wasn't a member of the Associated Press at the time. We were a member of United Press International, which barely still exists these days. But that was the beginning of a terrific friendship, I guess, as they said in Casablanca, or a beautiful friendship, I guess is the phrase. Howard and I we were friendly for many years. We covered tons of events together over the years, and we also went to a few Super Bowl trips, a few AFC Championship games, and in conjunction with a certain group of reporters that were all together for a certain amount of time And there aren't that many of us left on the beat in that regard. In fact, I'm not left on the beat anymore in that regard, but I do show up every now and then as a part-timer. Yeah, no, it's that's a bygone era now. But it's not like I don't see Howard for years at a time anyway, though. We catch up at least once a year anyway because we're both members of the Patriots Hall of Fame nominating committee, and it's through our hard work that you folks out there get to select the new member of the Patriots Hall of Fame every year. So but it's always good to see somebody that you worked so many years alongside. And speaking of football, NFL training camps are supposed to be opening 8 days from when most of you will be seeing this for the first time. The order's gone out from Park Avenue for 30 of the 32 teams to have their full squads in camp by July 28th. Although there's still quite a lot about the upcoming preseason that's still very uncertain. For instance, no one's really sure how many preseason games there will be. The league wants there to be 2, and the Players Association doesn't believe there should be any. It's not certain how long it's going to take for contact practices to be phased in, or how locker room facilities will be apportioned for 90 players with 6 feet of separation supposedly between each player. There are also a lot of other issues, COVID-19 testing protocols and quarantining, and now none of that's been finalized yet. Some players have taken to social media to raise those questions about worst-case scenarios, and among those, such as who's responsible if a player comes down with the coronavirus in practice or a game and then brings it home to other family members. Who's going to pay the bills? Is it going to be the league? Does it have to come out of the player's salary? Now, granted, I know a lot of you will say, well, they make tons of money. This is not what you want to be spending that money on, believe me. A lot of those posts showed up Sunday, today. They were all accompanied by the hashtag #WeWantToPlay. Among those I saw were posts from Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz, J.J. Watts, Zach Ertz. I should know his wife is on the U.S. soccer team. Frank Gore, Derek Carr, Richard Sherman, many others, including Patriots running back James White. Now, it's very clear that there are plenty of players out there that have legitimate concerns for their safety and also for that of their loved ones. And they don't feel that those concerns have been addressed enough by the NFL, and the league is running out of time to do it. Especially if training camps are supposed to open, in a week, a little bit more than a week from now. They've got to meet that self-imposed deadline of starting the training camps on time, or they're going to have to make some big changes in a hurry. This is going to be a very important week for the NFL, not just for the resolution of some of those issues, but also for the final decisions that have to come down about attendance and other issues relating to the off-field NFL experience. And it's with that in mind that I really have to laugh when I read some of the responses to the players' posts on social media. Well, many of the respondents are supportive, but some take a far more negative tack, as if they've been guided by the all-knowing, all-seeing hand of President Donald Trump, who, as we remember, was far too crooked for even the seediest of NFL owners to want for him to be in their midst. They have never allowed him to be part of that boys' club, and he's been upset about it ever since the mid-'80s when he couldn't get the USFL merged into the NFL, which he ruined a great league as it was. All of those posts have basically the same theme. I'm through with the NFL, they cry. I stopped watching them when the league got political. And that commie, Colin Kaepernick, when he took a knee during the anthem, he disrespected our flag and our veterans and the American way of life. Well, skipping over the fact that Kaepernick and other protesting players never intended any disrespect to the flag, the country, the military, veterans, policemen, firemen, or even the Girl Scouts, the fact is that those that protest the loudest are also the ones that are filled to the brim with grade A bovine fertilizer. They've never stopped watching. They never do. They yell and they scream and they bluster, but they always come back. And it doesn't matter how loudly they protest about what they think the NFL has done that makes them so upset. For every one former fan that might have actually stopped following pro football because of an honest crisis in conscience, there are literally thousands that are just espousing bullshit. They'll be back. They always come back, and they always will. But I just hope they have a sport to come back to, because these legitimate concerns that are being expressed by the players and the continuing spikes in coronavirus cases in many of the franchise cities could very well still sidetrack the plans to conduct a 2020 season in any form. Now, a pause for the cause. I do love these mugs. You know, I had a contest. I want people to write into my blog, and the email address I have for it, and let me know when they saw I went over 10,000 hits, and I was going to give away free mugs, and nobody did. Hopefully, I'll convince a couple of people to accept free mugs, because I want to give these things away. I got plenty of them. These are what I give to the guests on my audio podcast, The Owner's Box, and they all love them. I mean, I get emails back from them. They've gone to Florida, California, Indiana. They've gone all over the country, and these are great mugs. I mean, aside from the fact that they have the great logo that says The Owner's Box with Mark Farinella, they're 13 ounces. They handle coffee. They handle anything. Right now, it's Diet Dr. Pepper. Okay, in a similar vein to what I was talking about in regards to football and starting up in a season, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association's Board of Directors will meet virtually on Tuesday to discuss what courses of action may be taken for high school sports in the Commonwealth when school opens in September. But for those who are expecting some sort of resolution on Tuesday, do not hold your breath waiting. This is basically going to be a discussion session of what the future may hold, because the MIAA does not have the final say when it comes down to the structure of a 2020 fall season, or even if there will be one at all. That power still rests in the hands of Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, who will be relying heavily upon the recommendations of the state's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to determine which high school sports will be deemed safe to resume in the fall. Now, it's rumored that the MIAA will recommend some sort of delay in beginning the season, and that would entail, as I mentioned in a previous episode of After Dark, that it would probably delay practices until well into September, and that would actually delay the season even further. One scenario suggests that a shortened football season would begin on October 2nd, with the playoffs either being scrapped entirely or being truncated significantly. Now, already, the states of New York and New Jersey have taken similar steps to delay their fall seasons. But there are a lot of other states, and most of those would be shaded red on an election map, that have announced their plans to start their football seasons on time. The Massachusetts High School Football Coaches Association has put on a media blitz of sorts by posting on Twitter in recent days that Michigan, Pennsylvania, Iowa, and North Dakota have announced on-time starts to their fall seasons. And it's pretty clear that the idea is to put pressure upon those in decision-making roles here in Massachusetts to do likewise. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm proud that we in Massachusetts have really flattened the COVID-19 curve, as opposed to many of the lesser enlightened states where wearing masks is apparently tantamount to burning the Constitution in a public square. Thank God we're not that stupid. But now is not the time to let emotions rule the day. Sure, we all want to see high school sports back. We want to see any sports back. But the risk is too great. And if that's the case, the risk would be great not just to the young people in school, but also to those that might come down with the disease from what they might bring home with them. So, looking at that, if that even remotely seems to be a possibility, then it will be time to put emotions aside and let the adults make decisions that are in the best interests of all of us, not just high school sports. And again, a reminder to my friends in the football coaching community, it's not just football. It's got to be all sports. Every sport that's conducted in the fall has to be treated the same. And sometimes I don't think they fully agree with that. One quick aside today. In my visit to Mashpee Commons, I was very pleased to note that most of the people I saw were either wearing masks, or if they were dining, they were sufficiently distanced enough in those dining situations that they could reduce the risk. You're using your brains, people. Now just keep doing it for a while longer. And now on to our counting cars segment for today. Yes, indeed, I did count cars on my way back from Mashpee Commons today. Very light traffic today, surprisingly. Excuse me. Only 200 cars passed me on from Mashpee Commons down Route 151 to where I stay down here. And the breakdown was as such. Now, again, one quick explanation. I have a microphone hooked up to my collar, and I have a recorder going, and I just say the name of the country of origin of the cars as they go by me. I don't pay too much attention to it. I just do it really quickly so I can keep my eyes on the road and pay attention to driving, which is really the most important thing for me to be doing out there. But of those 200 cars that I was able to do, and then what I do, obviously, I come back and I jot them all down here, so that's how I know that what I've done. Japanese cars today, 79 of them. Cars with American brands, 71. Germany had a big day today, 33 cars. 10 Korean cars, 5 from Sweden, and 2 from the United Kingdom. Now, earlier in the day, I saw a Ferrari, but it was before I did the counting. I could have added one more Italian car to my list, but no, I'm sorry that that Ferrari came before the list became official. So of those 200 cars, the Japanese brands rated 39.5%, American 35.5%, Germany 16.5%, Korea 5.0%, Sweden 2.5%, and the UK 1% even. I like it when it comes out 200 even. So, that is today's episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. I'm going to have to do it like that every time. First things first, I want you all to remember that you can hear these podcasts from these things obviously from Facebook or on my blog, which is Blogging Fearlessly, but it is www.theownersbox2020.com. And for spelling, follow this. You see that up top there? That is where you can send me an email if you like what you see or what you hear, or even if you don't. Send me an email at theownersbox2020@gmail.com. See how it's written there? Freeze frame it so I don't have to explain it. There's no punctuation, and those are numbers at the end, no spaces, that's it. Or if you want to send me snail mail, and this stands up, send it to the Owner's Box at Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts, 02048. Maybe a while before I see it, but I'd love to get some mail. Everybody loves mail. And as long as we don't mess up the post office too much so we can all vote by mail this year, that would be great. And that will be it for this episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. I'm very happy you joined me. I will hope to have another one done in another couple of days. I also want to make note before I leave today, a wish of a very happy birthday to my friend and former coworker, Judy Cosentino. Judy is, like Jack Benny, celebrating her 39th birthday again, and probably will continue. I wonder if she even knows who Jack Benny is. These young people these days. Anyway, I just want to wish her a happy birthday. I want to wish you all the absolute best. I want you to stay healthy. I want you to wash your hands frequently and keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, folks. Wear your mask over your mouth, and don't have it like down here or up here somewhere like you could look like the Lone Ranger, like the president. Please wear your mask. And thanks again, folks. Enjoy your lives, and I will see you again soon. Almost better. And see, I ran out of it. Good night, everyone.